Ryan Adams is the Dean of College of Engineering and Mines at the University of North Dakota. Nice to see you.
It's great to be here.
So tell us what brings you to Oklahoma City and the Hamm Institute.
Oh, what a great opportunity. So the University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines specifically touches on everything that's happening at the Hamm Institute and everything that's happening today. So we have a lot of activities going on in oil and gas and coal and other rare earth elements and all of those kinds of things that feed into power. We do power distribution training and research, and then we also do the AI side, and we have a partnership with NVIDIA, for example, and other partners in the AI space to do AI analysis, AI model development, all of those kinds of things. So everything comes together in the College of Engineering and Mines.
And from what you're hearing today from the myriad of speakers, industry, government leaders, what most excites you about this conversation?
Oh gosh, so they've talked a lot about regulatory reform. One of the challenges that I have been seeing is that AI data centers can be built far faster than the infrastructure necessary to get power to them, often, especially in rural states. And in North Dakota, we're seeing a lot of interest in data center development. And we've got some great partners in Minn Kota Power and other power companies that are doing great things in the state. But we need to make sure that we can actually meet those needs when they need it. And it's been a big concern for me. We have a data center at UND that needs power upgrades, and we're having trouble getting all the piece parts together to get those power upgrades together so we can do more advanced AI modeling on campus. That's a very microcosm of the bigger picture of what's happening. So it's great to hear both the regulatory reform as well as just supply chain issues that we're seeing because of the huge demand there.
Knowing that you interact with a lot of folks in the industry and knowing what their needs are, if you had to pick top couple things on the regulatory reform front that would speed this process, what would it be?
Gosh, it's a really, really good question. So some of the regulations that we're seeing, it's just the ability to drill and pump oil out of the ground. Some of the other regulatory issues that we're seeing has to do with natural gas and the flare gas issue, of course, that's well known in the western part of the state. There's a lot of regulations that go into that, and when we propose changes, there's a lot of discussion and a lot of analysis that has to happen, and we really need to get those things fixed. So there's that. The secondary piece is sort of up into the mid-range. How do we get enough of the large turbines we need? How do we get all the chilling fields and power cabling and all of those kinds of things? That starts very, very early. A lot of copper is needed. A lot of other technologies are needed. That means mining is necessary. So there's regulatory reform all the way up the chain so that we can get the cabling we need so that we can get things installed and working the way we need it.
What have we learned so far about data centers and the needs for them, the ones that have been lit up? What lessons have we learned to this point to inform how we do this better going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of companies have really invested differently into these, which is really, really good. So there is no, in my opinion, one size fits all for data centers. A lot of people think of data centers as this monolithic thing. A data center is this, but different data centers for different purposes, it turns out, are the most efficient way to do it. Some data centers are relatively small, but incredibly compact and incredibly capable. Others are much larger to handle much larger problems. One of the things that is very much misunderstood, I think, in the AI space is that AI itself is not one thing, right? We talk about large language models. That's what ChatGPT and others have really brought to the public consciousness, and it's an incredible contribution. But large language models by themselves is just one piece. We also have various models that can be done with machine learning approaches, with deep learning approaches. There's a lot of different ways that we can solve problems. There are a lot of different problems that can be solved. For example, we've been talking about how we optimize power distribution and generation for AI data centers. We can use AI to help design those power distribution and generation stations, but a large language model like ChatGPT just isn't going to solve that problem. We need a model that's dedicated to that purpose, that's been trained to understand how power is distributed and generated. And so we need to generate specific AI models that target those issues. We need other models that target things like healthcare issues, other models that target things like cybersecurity, et cetera. All of these things, again, need perhaps a different data center or a different approach if we're going to truly do it optimally. So from my point of view, when we look at the different applications and the different uses, we're going to have a different scale, different type, different mix of compute resources in each.
But none of that happens without power.
None of that happens without power. And consistent, reliable, predictable power.
What role do you see North Dakota playing in being able to provide that?
Oh gosh, North Dakota is one of the major players in that, right? With the oil, natural gas, coal, all of that we do, wind power that we do is critical to making that happen. And that's one of the beauties of North Dakota is that we have invested in all different types. One of the things I've heard is today is just the discussion of all of the above is going to be necessary. Certainly we want to deregulate certain aspects of oil, natural gas, and other hydrocarbon sort of power generation, but we need all of it, and we need to understand where each is appropriate, where it's the most useful, and North Dakota is the best poised to be able to provide that infrastructure and that knowledge to the rest of the country.
How do you move from tell me you can do this to show me you can do it?
Show me you can do it. So once again, going to the North Dakota question, we have data centers in the state. There's lots of talk of additional data centers in the state. Can we take the power we have, the oil, natural gas, wind power, all of those things that we have, and leverage that into new data centers in the state? That shows me. That isn't just a tell me, that's a show me. And again, we're well poised to do that. We'll see where that location, where those locations end up being, whether they're in the western part of the state, eastern part of the state, south, north, whatever. But within the state, we will see new data centers coming in, and we will see the power coming in to be able to inform and power those things to make it happen.
You had a great couple of days earlier this week at UND and some special visitors from the Space Force and the Space Development Agency. Give me your best takeaways from that.
Oh gosh, what a great opportunity for us to visit General Gutlein and Derek Tournier of the Space Development Agency, General Gutlein in the Space Force. Those two individuals are incredibly well connected to the work that's happening at Grand Forks Air Force Base, Cavalier Space Force Station, and of course other things. UND has invested in the last 4 years incredibly in our infrastructure and manpower to support the Space Force and the Space Force mission. It leverages and builds on the unmanned aircraft work we're doing, which of course builds on our manned aircraft history. So all of that to say that the Space Force and the Space Development Agency has some really interesting opportunities and of course some really difficult challenges that they need to face, or that they're facing in the near future. UND with that visit was able to demonstrate very viscerally, very real, that we can meet those needs, that we can help them solve those problems that they can see in the near term, and of course preparing for the future. The investments we've made, that the state has made in us and that we've been able to leverage, meets those needs exactly. And that was really the beauty of that visit, is to be able to show the general and to hear him say that we have met that need when they need it.
What's the low-hanging fruit as an after-action item there? What was the big spark?
The big spark has to do with optical communication. So the Space Development Agency's satellite constellation relies on optical interconnects. They're not using radio frequencies antennas generally.
And that, help me understand, is just all the different ecosystems being able to talk to each other?
That's right. But they're using lasers to do it instead of antennas. The challenge with lasers are fantastic, but the slightest movement of the laser causes you not to make the connection. The laser shines off into space and doesn't hit its intended target. So there's a lot of vibration, there's a lot of noise in the system in space, and there's some incredibly long distances. So the concerns that a lot of people have is that optical communication going to be reliable? Can we consistently rely on it to do the job? And so if we can demonstrate that we have the capability on the Earth, in the atmosphere, to demonstrate optical communication, optical interconnect, not just in terms of its reliability, but its security. Could we do some quantum optical communication? Could we do other very reliable but very secure communication? They asked us to look at that. And because of our long history with unmanned aircraft, because of our knowledge and capability in optical communication that we now have, we're looking at ways that we can integrate that and demonstrate an autonomous, unmanned collection of unmanned vehicles that can communicate with each other using optical interconnects. That would demonstrate the capability then in space. So if we can demonstrate that, I think that we've got all the capability. And like I said, all the piece parts are there. It's just a matter of getting our great students, our great faculty, and infrastructure in the right place, pointed in the right direction to be able to show that. That's what we're working on right now.
My son's a graduate of the School of Engineering at UND, and I think about him now as a 27, 28-year-old in the workforce, works for Dakota Power, when he was thinking about what do I want to do, how that world has changed in 10 years. What opportunities does all this present for students that maybe didn't think they want to be an engineer, but want to be in this technological revolution?
Goodness, what an interesting question. So first of all, to the engineers and those prospective engineers, the first thing is that there are lots of divisions or branches of engineering that we offer at UND. And if you maybe don't think of yourself as a mechanical engineer, we've got other options, so please don't count us out. One of the things we try to do is we don't try to train students for their first job. We try to train them for a career. Most engineers, when they graduate, bounce from one job to the other. Maybe not a lot of times, but sometimes they do, because there's evolution in the future. And so our training hopefully prepares them for that. Outside of the engineering side, there are lots and lots of opportunities for business, for accounting and mathematics, physics, chemistry. All of those things fit into this. Now, we've talked about Space Force and Space Development Agency. There is an incredible number of opportunities that are coming to town very, very soon with a collection of defense contractors that are coming. We also already have Northrop Grumman and General Atomics in town, from training missions to technology missions and other things, operations. So there's lots of opportunities for unmanned aircraft operators, from air traffic controllers, and across the gamut of the campus. What I'll say is that this activity we're doing with Space Development Agency, as well as, of course, the AI and the power issues, open doors for every one of our students in the region and in the world.
Enjoyed the conversation, Dean Adams. So the future's bright at UND as always. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.